Hey sheepdogs, let's talk about balance. Let's talk about balance in life. So you've heard me talk about, my priorities as a husband and a father, and there's some patches on my wall where I do my podcast, and there's a reminder for me to keep my mind, my head where it belongs, i.e. the top patch, they're stacked 4 high, says man of God. I need to be right here with God. I need to be in the Word, I need to be in prayer, I need to be in worship, I need to be, for me, a lot of journaling. I'll be talking to God and thinking about maybe something bad that happened or something good that happened, and I'll get it on paper, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that was in there. And then on the opposite page, I do this thing where I will jot down things that I'm grateful for, because it's so important. We see really, really terrible things in life, especially folks who are in law enforcement see truly terrible things. And you've got to be able to find something to do with that. And when you start looking for positive things, you start seeing positive things. It literally rewires our brain. So for me, journaling is a big part of my walk with the Lord, because it helps me to kind of like self-evaluate. We can self-medicate, and that's not healthy, or we can self-evaluate and rewire ourselves. So, man of God, husband, am I helping my wife with everything that I need to? And now that's even more of a challenge, because I have desires and self-imposed obligations to help my guys that, in law enforcement as their chaplain, and several of them have recently reached out to me and been like, hey, I need you to come ride with me, we need to talk. And sometimes it looks like, hey loser, it's been a while since you've come and seen me, you don't love me no more. And that's usually code for, hey, let's ride, let's talk. Okay, cool. But then I also have the opportunity, it's not really an obligation, but the opportunity to go in as a reserve. I'm blessed to have a really good relationship with 2 chiefs of police that will let me come in as and when I'm able. And that's awesome. But then I need to be able to go back home now that I got these extra obligations on me, or opportunities, and make sure that I'm doing balance with that. This morning I washed and dried a little laundry before I left for church. Right now I'm on my way to church to get my Jesus on, and it's time to get fed, feed the mind, feed the soul. And so I slept in a little bit this morning. This is all about balance. I slept in a little bit this morning, got up, felt good, had a cup of coffee, doing some thoughts on what I want to journal on today a little bit, and just kind of slowed the pace down. And I'll tell you in a minute why. And then so I want to make sure that am I fixing the things around the house that need to be fixed? And that's a nice small feeling of success. So much of the law enforcement walk, that journey is, you're going to arrest this person 15 more times. You know that you got this person dead to rights, and there's a really good chance that no matter what you do, they'll be right back on the street. It just happens. And I've seen incredibly well wrapped up cases thrown out, and very, very sad situation. Okay, our job is to make the appointment with the judge, get that person a nice bunk down at the jail that deserves it, that person that's the bad person that needs off the street. We did our job. It's now up to the prosecutor, it's now up to the judge, etc. Okay. Now, I know that when I come home and I do these little projects around the house, it allows me to have that feeling of success. I fixed a door the other day. I'm replacing a couple lights in the house with much more modern LED light fixtures and little things like that I'm able to do to make the house a little bit better place. And that's a feeling of success when I walk in that room and flip that light switch on. Literally for years, that's going to be, cool, I did that. That for me is a small feeling of success. That's that serotonin release that I need. But I need to be making sure that I'm taking care of. Am I properly romancing my wife? Are we doing dates? We do a lot of home dates. And so the kids are grown, they're out of the house. I mean, if the kids are still home, send them to your mom's, whatever, if you got that opportunity. But spend the evening alone with your spouse and do healthy things. And so we'll make sure that we have set nights that we very specifically, that is our night to be together. And so we will visit, make dinner together, talk about our week, and we like tag team. It's, she's primary, I'm backup, we make the meal together. Cool. I make sure that I'm doing that. And I've told my wife, I'm like, because she, like any woman, has a concern that, is my husband going to fall down the law enforcement rabbit trail? Am I going to become a police widow and he's still alive? She doesn't want that, and I respect that. That's a very valid thing, and a lot of women, a lot of guys that are married to women in law enforcement have a very valid concern there, because it can become all-consuming, and you've got to be able to switch things off. Balance. You've got to be able to, like, I turn off the apps. There's apps that we have that we use constantly in law enforcement that I turn them off. When I'm not working, they're off. Been a while since I've said this. Coffee sip break. That's my buddy Eric Hadley with Got Your Six Coffee. That's his coffee. That's Cup of Joe, my favorite brew. Got a little bit of that rocking down the way to church. But so going back to go forward, you have to be aware of what your priorities are. And so, we're up to husband. And then you've got father. You need to be there for your kids and engaged and be the dad that gets down, or the mom that gets down and plays with them on the floor. And where you got to find healthy ways to connect with your kids and spend valuable time with them, because if you don't, they have every right. It will destroy relationships, and it'll make them cold. And there's a very good chance we end up with a cats in the cradle type situation, if you're familiar with that song. And I'm never going to be that guy. And so now I got a 2-year-old grandson, and which is pretty awesome. And so, he thinks I have magical powers because I can start fires, and we'll go out to the fire pit and light a fire, and we'll feed the fire. And he's at a fun age. I'm gonna savor every moment of that, right? So you got that, and then you got brother's keeper. And at the end of the day, like, I've had officers tell me they've had a scanner in their car, they've had a radio in their car, they've had a scanner at their house, and where they're constantly listening to whatever the traffic is. That doesn't let your brain disconnect. Some people believe, some studies have shown that it can take as much as 12 hours for your brain to come down from what you're doing as a police officer. So you come home from working 4 straight 12s, it's 12 hours into that next day before your brain goes, okay, I'm normal again. Well, if you never allow your brain to come down, if you're constantly looking at these apps, if you're constantly feeding information back in there, and you can feel so needed. It's like the video game, the psychology of a video game, the way that they wire those for guys. They build video games to be addictive and make a guy want to play them, need to play them. They need me. Okay, you're not, you're not, the Call of Duty warrior life is not real life. And you need to remember that, yes, you can have a positive impact on other people in law enforcement when you're off duty, okay, but is that where your time's best invested? Because you need to be able to disconnect. We have a GroupMe chat that's for our whole area, and you'll throw a picture in there and be like, hey, does anybody know this person? Oh, that's Bob Jones. Yeah, he's a real problem. Okay, cool. But you need to be able to disconnect from that, and you need downtime. Your brain needs to find something else to chew on that's positive. And you don't need to be like, on pins and needles following that chase, that pursuit. You need downtime. And I've had guys argue with me and go, no, I need to be there for my guys. What if they need me? I get it. I really do. But I've had guys come back to me a year or 2 years later and say, I got rid of my scanner. I turned it off for a night, and I was like, holy cow, I'm able to relax. I turned off the apps when I'm not working. I turn them back on when I am working. You can change the notifications on your phone. You've got to be able to find balance. And we don't work to live. Or I'm sorry, that's wrong. We don't live to work. We work to live. And one day when we're old and gray, and I love this saying, it's something I feel like that the Lord gave me one day talking to a young police officer. When we're setting our priorities, we have to remember that when we're old and gray, the badge and the bad guys won't be there for us. We won't have a 30th class reunion of our retirement, and all the bad guys show up and all the good guys show up, and the prosecutor and everybody talks about that time. The guy's like, man, Paul, I remember that time you busted me on all that math. That's not how that's going to work. We're not going to have these reunions and stuff all that time later with the badge and the bad guys. And a lot of times, and those of you who have seen it, you've seen it, you end up in situations where you retire out of law enforcement, or you see people retire out of law enforcement. Maybe they've been medically retired because of an injury, and within months you talk to them less, and if you're not very diligent, within a year or two you're not talking to them at all. And that's where we can end up getting our priorities wrong. It's got to have balance, because hopefully, the last part of this saying is that hopefully our families will be there for us. When we're old and gray, the badge and the bad guys won't be there for us, but hopefully our families will. Okay, so we covered the bases. My wife's going to be gone until around Tuesday, so as of the time of the creation of this video, she's out of town. And I decided I'm going to hit, which I just finished, I'm going to spend 2 days with one of my departments really hitting it hard and getting out there. And my goal was to do nothing but daylight traffic stops, get used to the vehicle, where the lights are, where all the controls are, really get my radio etiquette down. I'm still kind of working on some of that, and that was my goal. And God has a sense of humor. God's like, no, you guys are going to stop a vehicle and get a massive bust, stolen property, guy with multiple warrants, some weaponry, drugs, and then you're going to spend the next day doing nothing but inventorying and sending off charges and photographing evidence and writing supplemental reports. And that's just how God does that. Because every time I've said, man, I really want to spend the day like familiarizing myself with the vehicle and the radio etiquette and doing a lot of daylight traffic stops so I can be watching my footwork and what I'm doing, God's like, no. And every time that I've been like, I really just want to spend the day doing this, God's like, no, you're going to be helping produce search warrants, because I can type really fast and I'm fairly articulate. And so you're going to be doing a search warrant, or you're going to be involved in a high-speed pursuit, or you're going to be taking evidence up. And it's funny, because unlike a lot of young men that get into law enforcement, or young women for that matter, that they really want to do the high-speed stuff first, I really want to make sure I've got this really firm foundation underneath me so that I can be a solid beat cop and then go do this other stuff. God's like, no, you're not dipping your toe in, bro. You're getting dunked. So this is Sunday, so Friday, I came out Friday night and was with the department for hours, and big stop, lots of stuff, gonna be a good case, and bad guys doing bad things are in jail now. Good. So that led into Saturday, which was going and getting a bunch of stolen property and you know, all that stuff, and spending the entire day doing that. But then you've got to have downtime. It's about balance. And so what I ended up doing was I today slept in a little bit, thinking about what I want to journal, getting ready, headed out the door to church, gonna worship, gonna just throw myself into getting fed this morning in church. I'm shopping for a different vehicle. I just got a Subaru Outback and replacing my Impala, and I sold an old truck, and I'm shopping for a slightly newer truck. So I'm going to do a little bit of that, and then I'm going to do some street photography. I'm going to stop off and have a nice, slow, quiet lunch. I'm going to do a little bit of journaling and just, you know, God, this is what's in my heart and in my head. On the left page is heartaches and things that I'm just going through, and good stuff. And then on the right side is just nothing but blessings. And, you know, the title just came in for my car, so I can get it tagged. I've got the money sitting there to pay the sales tax. Just going through that and keeping this wired for positivity. I've rewired my brain to look for good things, not just negative. And as people, we can tend to be negative, and once we get into law enforcement especially, we can become incredibly negative. We can completely lose our empathy. We can just be like, well, yeah, but I mean, the other shoe's going to drop. Or we can just try to look at the bright side and see that there are many positives in life too. So the right side of the page, I just write down the positive things that are going on in my life, the things that I'm grateful for. Let's put it that way, is a better way of putting that. And the left side of the page, and if it spills over, I do continued and I flip it over, and then I write more things about what I'm thinking about. I'm going to do some street photography and just walk around. And I have not gotten to do that since before I started the police academy. So the academy started around the 1st of August, and this is January. And so I have not gotten to do that. I've got a run and gun camera with me. I've got a nice iPhone that takes really good pictures, and I'm just going to do some run and gun photography and just walk around. I've got some nice walking shoes on. I'm dressed down. I've got an off-duty carry rig on, and I'm just going to disappear today and take some cool photos. And so that is part of how my day is going to go. I've got 2 or 3 other things on my list. I've got a guy that I'm going to try to meet with to look at that truck and just get those things taken care of. So I'm just going to kind of relax today and just sort of let things gel. So why do I share all that? it's about balance. And like the officer that I would have been working with today if I'd gone in, he's like, hey, will you come back? Will you come back Sunday? So ding, I feel needed. I really want you to come back. And I love the guy. He's very close to me, my brother. But he's like, I really need to get this, and this done. And I'm like, I get it. I can send you my supplemental through email, because he shot me an email address to send it to, my supplemental report. And we've got a couple other little things that we're trying to do technology-wise, but I know that I need the downtime, because this is now a new week, and Monday's coming fast and hard, and I pay my bills doing IT and video work. So, some social media and things, and I need my creativity to be on point, because I've got to go pay my bills so that I can go back and help these departments. We were involved in an arrest the other day. There's a reason I share this. 3 officers went in to deal with an individual, and he's known to be a problem, known to be armed, known to be a threat. We were able to capture him in such a way that he didn't have a chance to run, and I guess he'll run on foot, and as I understand it, he'll definitely run in a vehicle, and it's going to risk a lot of lives. And we were able to capture him in such a way, well, there were 3 of us in an environment that there would have been no more than 2 normally. And so 3 uniformed, armed police officers were able to go in, and he looked at the situation. There were some other factors in there, and he was like, yep, nope, I'm surrendering. You win 100% of the fights you don't have to fight, praise God. And I want to be able to go back and do that in those departments, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So I know that before I get to a quarter tank, I've got to go refill and top off the tank. I've got to fill the cup again, whatever analogy resonates with you. And so that is something that I know very, very much about myself. And when I know myself well enough that when I start feeling that whole, hey, I probably need to take some downtime, I know it's time to do it. So I'm going to do some of my favorite things today: catch that movie, do some street photography, be in worship, enjoy some good coffee, and be ready to hit next week refreshed. Because if you don't, you're going to start feeling down. If you don't, you're going to start feeling kind of depressed. If you don't, you're not going to feel recharged and ready to go back. And you can take like mental little mini vacations and start looking at that time with your family as your spouse, friends that are not cops, or go out with friends that are cops and do healthy things when you're with them. You can start having these little mini mental vacations that allow you to come back ready to rock and rejuvenated and ready to get after it. Because that blue flame as a new cop only lasts so long. And I think a lot of people have been surprised that I haven't been just like hard charging, full tilt, signing up for everything I possibly can. Because I know from watching guys for 13 years burn out about a year, or especially 2 years in, and they start hating everything. They just hit this wall. They're hard charging, and they'll work 2 departments, or they'll work all the overtime they can get, or they'll go ride with different departments, and they'll run hard charging full tilt for 2 years, and then they just hit this brick wall at 100 miles an hour, and they're like, rah, I hate my life. So balance, my friend. It's about balance. So I love you. I'm praying for you. I don't even know you, and I'm praying for you. And for those of you that I do know, I'm praying for you. And I just pray that God guides you, that He protects you, that if the bad guy plans an ambush to harm you, then He causes that. As Proverbs says, an evil man digs a pit and falls into it, meaning the very trap that evil person laid against you, they fall into. I pray for that in Jesus' name for you, and that even if they're firing you, that God would bend the bullets around you. I pray for supernatural protection around you, and I pray that as you seek Him, He gives you the desires of your heart. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you. God bless.